Hi, everyone. Welcome to Embracing Change, a digital transformation podcast where we talk to business leaders and executives about how changes in technology and in consumer behavior are affecting their industries and companies. I am your host, Gerardo Kerik, Chief Digital Strategist at WSI Digital Boost. This show is brought to you by WSI, the largest network of independent digital agencies helping clients worldwide improve the return on investment of their digital assets. So today we're talking about the challenges of digital transformation for the retail industry, but we're adding a twist to the topic, the multicultural aspect. My guest today is Ariela Nerubay, Chief Marketing Officer at Curacao. Ariela has more than 15 years of experience in executive marketing leadership, launching, repositioning, and growing brands and businesses from zero to multi-million-dollar operations. A multicultural marketing expert, Nerubay currently serves as a CMO at Curacao, a top 100 retailer, in addition to being adjunct MBA faculty at the University of Southern California Marshall School of Business. Prior to Curacao, she led multicultural marketing strategy for the Walt Disney Studios, Hispanic marketing operations for Sony Pictures International, releasing and building the marketing department for a startup media venture between Spanish language media giants Televisa and Univision, amongst many other things. She's basically a superstar in this industry. Welcome, Ariela. How are you?
Hi, very nice to see you, Gerardo. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show.
Oh,
I
thank you so much
appreciate it.
for taking the time to talk to us today and to our
Of
audience,
course.
okay? So, Ariela, before launching into the topic of retail and multicultural, tell us a little bit about your story and background. I mean, I think our audience will find it very, very interesting, a little bit to understand a little bit about where you come from and how you got to where you are today.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to try to give you the short story. Otherwise, that's going to take over my entire
It could
hour.
it could take the whole podcast, right?
Right. Could take a whole podcast. How did Ariela get here? So I have to say I've been very lucky. I think I do believe that in any career journey, people have to have the skill set, but also the right timing. And a lot of those decisions that that you kind of second guess yourself, should I do this, should I not do it, and I do have to say that throughout my entire career I have been one that just goes for it. And I think that that has been my lucky start, that I am I just go for it. I came to this country not knowing anybody, and I wanted to study in America, so I just went for it. I
Mm-hmm.
went to UCLA. I got a certificate program in a couple of different disciplines, and then I started working, and I obviously leaned into what I knew how to do, which is Spanish language, because I am from Mexico. And I figured, you know what, if there is a niche for me where I can truly thrive, would be serving my own community in America. So I began my journey working for Televisa on the news side, then moved on to PR, then moved on to the agency, advertising agency world, all throughout really working for companies or agencies that specifically serviced the Latino community in the US, and then build an entire career that way, really
Mm-hmm.
focusing on one particular niche of the of the population, but one that is growing and has been growing for decades, and today is the largest multicultural segment in America. So
Mm-hmm.
I was, I guess again, I was thoughtful by selecting the right niche and really going for it. But at the same time, I was very, very lucky to work for wonderful organizations, have amazing boss mentors that provided me the opportunity to really expand my knowledge across multiple disciplines that enriched my toolkit. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that every person that starts their journey should focus on enriching their toolkit and have as many skills within their industry or their vertical as they can collect, because all of those are the ones that come handy when you're resolving problems, because life is about, as an executive and as a professional, is always about what problem are you solving today. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm solving a problem that has to do with reputation or online reputation management, then I need to pull my PR, you know, toolkit. And if I am solving, a conversion issue that we're having because of the cookie removals, today, then I need to pull my digital marketing, toolkit. And if I am talking to the CEO and we are discussing the future of the company and the future state of, of our business in general, then I need to pull my business toolkit. So I believe that there is toolkits for everything, and you collect them as you are exposed to a variety of projects, brands, situations, good and bad, because sometimes there is successes and sometimes there's failures, and you
And
learn
there's
from
learnings
both.
from from the failures too. It's important to
Absolutely.
collect those
And that
tools as well.
and that's part of that those toolkits, because when you find yourself on a situation of failure, or a situation of, of a mess, how you handle it really sets you up for success for how you will handle the next one. And even if you handled it poorly maybe this time, then that's the toolkit. Now you know, oof, if I have to sit back and think about how I handled it before that was not appropriate, how would I handle it in the future? Because another problem will show up and another situation where you fail will show up. So take that toolkit and say, okay, I remember I handled it this way and it worked, or I decided I was going to handle it differently this time, and you do, and then you realize, well, now I did it right.
I love
So,
it. I love it. Well, that's very insightful, and it's so true in general. I mean, it's almost. I know we're talking about digital transformation in in this episode and in our podcast, but it's a topic that fascinates me, which is professional growth. And I think I would almost like to have a separate conversation with you about all of this. I have so many points of view on this, and
absolutely happy
I
to.
think we could we could share a lot of insights on that. Now, you talked about the fact that you're a multicultural executive with a multicultural background, right? So you're
Correct.
from Mexico, you came to the United States, for the American dream, but you're a second generation immigrant, right? I mean, you come from a background of immigrants as well, right?
Yes, I am I guess, double whammy immigrant, right? Because my grandparents were, well, my great grandparents immigrated to Mexico, bringing my grandparents, who then, gave birth to my parents as the first generation Mexicans. We were originally from Ukraine, Poland, Belarus area. So all of my family that migrated here, and then when my parents were born, then obviously they had me. So I'm second generation Mexican in Mexico, but then moved to America and became now first generation Mexican American in a way. So
Yeah,
it is, yeah, it is.
it's a
I
it's
am definitely a combination of cultures, and even though I am physically, when you see me, very Eastern European, I am 100% Latina, very proudly. I relate to my community in every possible way. And then at the same time, because I've been here for now over 25 years, um, or soon, actually, this summer, it'll be 25 years. Um, then I feel like I'm part of that 200 generation, right? Like I'm 100%
yeah,
American, 100% Mexican, and just all of these different cultures kind of like converge
together,
into
yeah. Fully
one.
bicultural. And we talked about this in our prep call. I mean, we share that as well. My audience probably don't know that I have a very similar background to yours in the sense that
That's right.
my grandparents immigrated from the same area, Ukraine, Poland, Germany, fleeing Second World War to
Right.
Argentina. Then they fled Argentina in the 70s. I was born in Argentina. They fled Argentina in the 70s because of the military government to Mexico. I was raised in Mexico and I feel fully Mexican. And then I moved, like you, from Mexico to the United States for for work and better options, right? And I'm
Right.
like you, feel that part of that 200 percenters, right?
Right.
Fully bicultural. And so I think that that's really interesting because, especially for the topic of multicultural marketing that we're going to touch upon today, it's important to understand that culture is not only language. Multicultural marketing is not only about language, but it's also about culture, values, and many different aspects that really make you connect with your audience, right? So,
Absolutely.
as you know, we want to focus on digital transformation and disruption. And just to define it for our audience, I'd like to throw there what we mean when we talk about digital transformation. Okay, so we see digital transformation as the process of using digital technologies to create new or modify existing business processes, culture, and customer experiences to meet changing business and market requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it transcends roles like sales and marketing and it's more than that.
It touches
It's
everything.
basically business being transformed, right? So
Absolutely.
I want to open up the topic and hear about your experience and what you're seeing within the retail industry in particular, which is your most recent experience in terms of digital transformation. What can you tell us about that?
What can I not tell you, Gerardo? Well, let me start by sharing that I work for a company that has been around for 40 years. So it's again 4 decades of serving customers that are first generation Latinos. And over the past 4 years since I joined the organization, I actually have been spearheading our digital transformation, at least on the marketing front. And what I mean by that is that for 40 years, 90% of their customers were first generation Latinos, just like you and I when we were born in our countries of origin and moved here. So, 9 out of 10 customers of Curacao, which is a retail company that lends to first generation, second generation today Latinos, and where people start their credit journey, buy their refrigerator, the telephone, or the whatever it is that they need. That is a hard good because we don't sell any soft goods. Um, they come to Curacao, they open credit, and then they start their journey. And we used to go out and target them equally in a very analog, I guess, kind of world. Our catalog, our printed catalog, was kind of like the Sears catalog approach.
Mm-hmm.
Through literally through today, still is one of the most important elements of our acquisition and activation strategies because
Mm-hmm.
it works. When I joined the organization, I was like, gosh, you're still doing catalogs? What is that about? I'm like, I want to take all those away. We spend millions of dollars a year just in printing and mailing,
Mm-hmm.
not to mention the literally very treacherous 10-week production process because it was so broken internally between all of the parties that contribute to this catalog. You have a product management team that sets the type of products that go in the catalog, at what price and with what descriptions and what attributes, and sometimes even what promotions related to those products. But then you have the marketer, right? Which says, okay, so this is the campaign. This is who we're going after. These are the messages that we're gonna deliver. This is the segmentation strategy that I am approaching. Therefore, your products need to meet my strategy. But yet, the internal processes were so broken that marketing would say, "This is what we're gonna do," and then product managers would say, "Well, this is what we did," and it didn't match up. So sometimes we would send a marketing catalog, first of all, massively to people that would come anyway because their propensity to buy or to come to the store is so high that there is not even reason when you compare it to the control group. Meaning we send a million catalogs and then we choose a control group that looks like the million people we just sent a catalog to, and we take them out and see their behavior, and we see that this control group of people, they still came to the store even though they didn't receive the catalog. So why would you send that segment of the population the catalog? They have a high propensity to come anyway. So it's
Mm-hmm.
marketing spend that you shouldn't be allocating. So, so again, going back, and I'm going to focus a lot on the catalog because that was and is still such a vital channel for us. But we have been very thoughtful about, you know, about using technology, I guess, in order to be able to assess, you know, different propensities. Again, what's their propensity to come and buy? What's their propensity to actually churn within the next 12 months? What is their propensity to churn within the next 24 months? And we do all this analysis with our own algorithms in our data science team that then help me assign a scorecard, like a scorecard to each one of these segments, and then eliminate the segments that don't work, like that I don't need to spend money on, and then determine what the intensity of the promotion that I need to do in order to be able to attract the ones that I do want them to come because they have the highest propensity to churn. So that's the catalog and that's the way that we utilize technology there. But the reality is that as I was saying earlier, I came to Curacao and I said, why are you guys still using catalog? And when I saw all the information and all the data, and then we started, evolving even farther into our processes of aligning with product management, with our strategies, and aligning data science with all of this information that we need to do in order to understand where to put the money. I did a major digital transformation shift in terms of budget. First, budget allocation. 90% of our dollars 4 years ago went to traditional media, TV, radio, catalog. 10% to digital. Today, 4 years later, 50-50.
Okay, so I have a question, a follow-up question there. How much of that is a result of um, the last 2 years? The fact that we went through a period of a pandemic and that probably many um, of the people that used to come to your stores maybe were afraid of coming to a store and but they still needed to buy goods, right? How much I'm trying to assess how much we knew we were going to get there, but how much was accelerated by the pandemic, this
So
shift?
you made a great point. So it was definitely by design that I was gonna push the company to move into a more 50-50 digital versus traditional approach by the mere fact that strategically, in order for us to scale up, we needed to be more digitally focused
And,
because
and, and,
the
and let me
stores,
let me just clarify there. When you say digital focused, is digitally focused in the sense of e-commerce sales
correct.
or communication?
Um, Both, because it's e-commerce sales. The future of retail now with Amazon and all of the competitors we have, we just didn't have a choice. We had
Yeah.
to go and transform ourselves. So
So
talking about digital transformation, so for our company, part of it was by design, and part of it definitely COVID accelerated all of us in the retail industry the need for servicing our customers where they want and where they are. So what it was interesting is that Curacao, because it was traditionally a brick and mortar store, where 90% of our sales come through, still do, by the way. 90% of our sales still come through our brick and mortar stores. During the pandemic and the shutdown, we were lucky that because we sell computers, we're able to stay open as an essential business. But we did see a major shift in consumer behavior and how a large portion of our customers actually chose not to come to the store and shop online. Now, we were ready because we had been working on our ecom platform for 4 years at that point. So we were ready for the pandemic, thankfully, and we were able to capitalize on all that influx of customers that moved from in-store to online. But in order to be able to to accommodate that, we also had to shift our marketing strategies. So there was a lot of spend that was shifted from outdoor advertising, which was a big issue for us because we had contracts with outdoor companies, but all of a sudden nobody's driving. So it's like, what is the point on putting our dollars on outdoor when the world
when
is
people are not in the
has
streets, yeah.
stopped? There's nobody on the streets. So we were able to get out of those contracts, like honestly, through a lot of negotiation, and then shifted all of that spend into digital marketing. Now,
Okay.
as I was mentioning before, it is also by design that we are shifting our marketing focus and our business model into digital marketing because we know that it's not scalable to stay only within the four walls of our stores and attract customers and expect that they will drive 20 miles, 30 miles, or even 50 miles to come to the store to open an account.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2018, which is the year that I joined the organization, I worked with a digital team to launch, to build and launch our first online application. We
Mm-hmm.
used to collect applications for credit from our customers by, being outside of supermarkets with our pen and paper and filling out literally paper applications,
Mm-hmm.
or through the stores. We have a whole credit center within the store where you can walk in the store and be directed to the credit desk and open an account, kind of like in a bank.
Mm-hmm.
So and then we have a pre-approve channel, which is we pre-approve certain customers that qualify for a credit and mail them an offer to apply.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was this fourth channel that I spearheaded the development for, which is our online credit application. So it's all digital based. You scan a QR code, it sends you to the landing page where you can literally apply online, which,
Mm-hmm.
even though it may sound like, of course, why wouldn't you be able to? Well, for Curacao, it was new. It
Mm-hmm.
literally just happened in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So we went from, having zero customers that applied online to having an entire organization, marketing organization, that is funding digital advertising efforts to attract customers to apply online and then shop either in the store or on our ecom platform. And we
Yeah.
went from zero to now being, the second most important channel that we have in
Wow.
terms of sourcing new accounts. And not only
Well,
is one of the most important ones and the one that has the most growth potential, but also is the most challenging one, because with the removal of all cookies, our segmentation approaches have been impacted. So our
mm-hmm.
conversion rates are a lot lower and our costs are a lot higher.
Mm-hmm.
So we're struggling enormously. And I mean, there's things that we're doing, and we will talk more about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But really, this cookie removal, it has brought this one channel that was our second largest sources of business for us, from the second one to now the fourth one, just
Mm-hmm.
because of the cookie removal.
Of course. Yeah. I know.
Lots of challenges.
It's affecting all of our clients. We see it every day, especially with e-commerce businesses. It basically loop-sided all of their numbers, and we're all
Right.
trying to relearn how to live within this new world where there's higher privacy laws and less information available, right? So, you touched upon something very interesting, which is this concept of the retail apocalypse, right? That started in
Right.
2017 with Abercrombie and Finch and Blockbusters and Guess and Toys R Us and all of these companies, retail companies, really struggling, right? And it seems
Right.
to me that from what you're describing, that you know w- within the organization that you work for, Curacao, uh, action was taken to really make that shift and do not be so dependent on the retail operation, but have an e-commerce side that is actually fueling all of this growth, right? So I'm interested in understanding when we talk about some of the competencies that you have to build within an organization, right? To be able to make this transformation. We can talk about analytics, we can talk about sales and marketing, we can talk about operations, right? And so I'm interested in understanding how does an organization acquire those skills, right? We're talking about machine learning, retail analytics, we're talking about process mining, right? When it
Absolutely.
comes to sales and marketing, you talked about omni-channel, conversational artificial intelligence. There's so many different aspects that really make or break this transformation, right? So I'm interested in understanding what is the process of, first of all, identifying those gaps that an organization has that need to be filled in, what competencies need to be acquired, and then in what order. right?
Right.
What should we acquire first? We cannot achieve everything at the same time, right? And then
Exactly.
how do we allocate resources behind that? I'd love to hear your insight into that. I know it's a very loaded question. It is a very
It
loaded
is. It
question.
is loaded, but is on point because when I joined Curacao and I took 3 months to really learn the operation because I came from entertainment, as you mentioned, from Disney and the other studios, and 12 years working for Univision. So I was not familiar with the retail operation. I mean, I'm definitely a shopper, but it's very different from when you're behind, right? The other side. So I joined the organization. I learned about retail. I mean, 3 months is not nearly enough. I have to say that I'm on my fourth year and I'm finally getting it. So it takes a lot of time to really build the competency. In fact, I mean, I love the book from The Tipping Point, and there was I just love Malcolm Gladwell, but he has a book that specifically talks about how you really need 10,000 hours to become a true expert at something, and that's about 10 years. So I'm on my fourth year. I feel that I'm getting there, but I still have 6 more to go before I can say that I really understand retail. But what I can tell you is that as soon as I joined the company and I started seeing how they operated, the first thing I said is we are spraying and praying still. You guys, the way that you operate your marketing is spray and pray. We need to serve the right customer, the right offer, on the right language at the right time when they're ready to make a purchase. And then our conversion rate and our average order value, all of that is going to increase and everything will make sense. We'll reduce costs, we'll be more operationally efficient, um, instead of having all this waste again with the massive catalogs and the mass television. And I really wanted to be very digital and very focused, and the only way you can achieve that specificity is again understanding who your customer is. That was 4 years ago, and I spoke about this and constantly that that was my goal, but I didn't really know, candidly, how to get there because again, Curacao is a big company, and just like Curacao is a big, just like other big companies, there's a lot of silos, and I didn't even know where to start finding the information I needed to really understand who the customer was. We have a gigantic data lake because 9 out of 10 customers that shop at Curacao, they use our private label credit card. That means I know who they are, where they live, how much money they make, what's their household income, what's their age range or age group, whether they're male or female, even sometimes to the degree of what country of origin, whether they came from Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, or from where, because that was part of the application process. I know, I know what they bought, you know, and how often they buy, and how good of payers they are, because that's very important for our company in terms of risk. But I didn't know a lot of other things that really enriched my view about who this human being was, right? Because me knowing all your demographics is great in order for me to identify or geofence you with messages. But to really trigger you as a marketer, I really need to understand a lot deeper who you are and what motivates you. And that's the data enrichment that I was missing. And I did not know how to go about it because my budgets are limited. Data enrichment is expensive. Um, and I didn't even know what do you go Google data enrichers? How do I know
Where do
who's
you
good?
start? Yeah.
Where do you start? So I ended up going to e-tail this year. So it took me 4 years. I mean, I knew where I needed to go. I knew that I kept saying I need budget, I need to find it, but I didn't know how. So I would have to say that these conferences really are very helpful. So e-tail, which is the largest retail e-com conference in America, as far as I understand from my peers, um, I was there, and oh my God, all of a sudden the world opened up. All of these vendors that provide all of these digital platforms that would help do my job a lot more efficiently. And I came across a company that is a data enrichment company, brought them on. We started talking, and right now we're in process of onboarding them so that we can do our first tests into taking these data lake that we have to a completely new level. really, really contextualizing the customer, understanding across, like, I think they have 400 data points that can really provide context to the other side of who this person is.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, if you're me, if I'm a Curacao customer, all you know of me is that I bought a phone 2 months ago, and that I make this much money, and I live in this place, and I'm a woman, and I have this age.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the other things that you don't know about me is that I have children, that you could be marketing toys to me, or that I have an interest in pets, that you could be marketing to me about pets, or
Mm-hmm.
that I have, right now 8 Ukrainians living in my house. So obviously I have a need for extra, household items that I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be sharing with them. So and how would you know that with data enrichment is because data enrichment reaches out to other first party owners like myself,
Mm-hmm.
that then join potentially on a co-op or through other companies that have transactional data, that through this transactional data you can see, oh, wait a minute, there is this whole other side to this person, because they don't only transact in Curacao, they transact in, you know,
In
thousand
many
other
businesses, of
retailers and
course.
businesses outside, that
Mm-hmm.
then all collectively that data kind of signals to you what is everything else that I do outside of Curacao, that
Of
could
course.
add context, because then I you can in the past say, oh, well, she bought a every time she comes to Curacao she only buys furniture, so she's a furniture buyer. So
Mm-hmm.
every time I send you an email, I'm going to send you an email related to furniture, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
making a gross assumption that that's all you care about is furniture. I
Mm-hmm.
just came to buy furniture, but I care about a lot of other things
Of course.
that you could potentially offer me, but because you're boxing me into this furniture buyer, then you're gonna miss out and you're gonna lose
Yeah,
me.
and not only offer you, but also with all of this richness of information, I could actually create messaging that it's actually more relevant to you,
Exactly,
right? And it's gonna
exactly.
make you be more interested in my brand, in my products, right? So if you're a pet lover, and maybe in my messaging I have pictures of a family, maybe I want to have a catalog for, not a catalog but an ad for pet lovers with a family with animals, right?
Right.
Because I know that's how you see your family, and I can only know that through that data enrichment, and that's going to actually make uh, that particular ad probably a tad more relevant to you, right?
Absolutely. At
So
least
so
it would increase my click-through rate and potentially the conversion rate, for
and
sure.
potentially the conversion exactly. So there is a famous story, probably you've heard about it, about uh, with Target, right? And there was this person that came to a Target. He was a dad, and he was very upset, and he wanted to talk to the manager of that that particular store that was in his local store, right? And he was very offended because Target started sending his household information catalogs about pregnancy, right? Pregnancy clothing, and pregnant and cribs, and all of these coupons for a baby product and stuff like that. And he had teenage daughters, and he was very offended by that. And what happened was that he did not know that one of his teenage daughters was actually pregnant, and that she's been researching information about pregnancy and how to deal with pregnancy and how to be healthy and all of this. And she was afraid of telling that. And the data analytics machine that Target had through all of this data enrichment had seen all of this and assumed this was a woman that was pregnant, that was doing all of this research, and they triggered all of this flood of information to try to target her to buy
Correct.
products at Target, right? So it's a very famous study. It's a very famous case study that it's actually taught at some schools, in the sense of how actually Target knew before the dad that
Exactly.
that the
Be-
daughter was pregnant.
because of her daughter's behavior
Behaviors.
online.
behavior online.
Correct,
Exactly,
search
because of her
behavior,
behavior online.
because and that's part of the whole data privacy issues, right? That because I can make a lot of assumptions about you based on your online behavior and search patterns. So which could be absolutely right or absolutely wrong, because if you have a single person that is online searching for wipes, baby wipes, to clean their desk because it's pandemic, right? So they're like baby wipes, and then they go and search, and then they go and buy baby wipes, and then they buy a lot of baby wipes. Then that, but this is a single guy who has no kids and no interest on babies. It just happens to buy baby wipes. That's why marketers cannot use a single search keyword to make assumptions about search patterns. I mean, it's layered, it's complex, it's multi attribute analysis that you need to do in order to truly understand. Now, in the case of Target, they were spot on. The lady was pregnant and she was doing research on her pregnancy. And, what's interesting is that, the dad didn't know, but Target knew, because you are leaving your cookie crumbs everywhere,
Everywhere. Yeah.
everywhere with everything that you do. In fact, talking again about more the digital transformation. So I would say the first thing that keeps me up at night was, how am I going to sell the right message to the right person at the right time on the right vehicle, and with the right offer. Well, a lot of that is going to come with data enrichment. Secondly, is how can I really bring my even my offline, both online and offline operations, a step further to really understand consumer behavior as it comes to driving patterns to and from my store, because we have these little articles called phones that are running apps in the background at all times, because we allow them to. Unless you sit down and go in your settings and turn all of your apps off and say only run in the whenever I tell you to, then it is likely that a big portion of your apps that you have in your phone are currently running in the background. So we contracted a software company that provides us with maps that aggregate data from, I don't know, thousands of apps that are out there, collecting our background information, location information, and then all of these thousands of apps send all that information to this one company, and then this one company then creates maps that gives marketers real-time access to see where people are coming and going from location to location. So it's telling me that, for example, people that come to Curacao drive these particular streets in higher volumes than these particular streets. So I should be buying east west on Olympic versus north south, because a larger portion of my customers, because I may have a lot of traffic on, you know, on Olympic, which is going no on Union, which is going north south. Maybe that's a more highly traffic street, but the people that come to my store don't use that avenue. They come
Yeah.
from Olympic, which is a lower traffic street. So for me, now it elevates a conversation with billboard companies. And I said, well, maybe your billboard gives more impressions, but they give impressions to the wrong people. Because my people, the people that come to my company, I based on their data on their phones and where they come from, they actually run on these streets that are lower cost for me, but higher impact, because that's where they drive to and from.
Wow.
So we now I am using technology, that type of digital technology, to reposition my billboard ads, or geofence, certain neighborhoods that show in a heat map to be the neighborhoods where the majority of my customers or potential customers live. So
Yeah.
then I am utilizing technology in all fronts,
Of
and,
course.
and again, it's digital technology that impacts online and offline.
Yeah, and what our audience don't know, probably don't know, I'm assuming, no? Many might not know is that you can actually pinpoint very, very specifically that geo-targeting, right? And
Yes.
geofencing. And you could actually say somebody, I want to show these ads to people not only that go on the streets. I mean, not I'm not talking about billboards, but on digital. I want to show these ads to people that enter these stores because I
Oh,
know there's a shopping center where I'm
exactly.
not, right? So I could actually be, that specific and target it that way, and really try to lure those people towards a different store, right? So
Actually,
that's
I'm gonna make it even scarier. I literally, there's maps of Best Buy out there that I can literally geofence the Best Buy that is across the street from me, and I can geofence the electronics department so that when potential customers interact with any app, I can serve them up an ad that Curacao says, for electronics, here is a coupon, come to my store.
yeah. Isn't
It's
that
that
crazy?
intrusive.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's incredible what we can do right now in terms of targeting
Right.
and all the tools that we have. And I just find it's I mean, for somebody that it's been in marketing like you for so many years, it's so much fun. I mean, it was such a harder job before, wasn't it?
I know. I'll tell you, it was. I would say it was so much easier before because you weren't held accountable as much.
Well,
Whereas
true,
today,
true.
there is a
Yeah, I see.
huge accountability that comes with visibility. Because,
Yeah.
like before, you spend money on television, and well, how do you know that your television worked? I don't know.
Who
I mean,
knows? Yeah.
but now I can definitely tell you, hey, I sent this email, and it had an average or high open rate, but yet the clicking didn't happen. But it's not because of the creative, it's because your offers don't
Are not
motivate my
good. Yeah.
customer. So then now you have accountability, and I can say, look, marketing is generating the open rate, marketing is driving people to the store, but the conversion rate is low because your product mix, or because your pricing, or because of your customer service.
Yeah.
So there
Abs-
is a lot of elements within the store that really work together to provide the right experience to a customer that are way beyond marketing.
yeah.
But marketing is the easiest target always, is to say, well, bring more customers, bring the right customers. And you couldn't say before, bring the right customers, like, how do I find them?
Yeah.
But now with digital marketing, you can be very specific about the type of customers that you're serving your ad and that you're bringing into your store.
Of
So there's
course.
a high level of accountability that makes it more fun, but more challenging at the same
More
time.
challenging too. Yeah, I mean, we serve a lot of media companies, and a lot of them are with subscription on demand services. And we see it with marketing, right? I mean, we can drive the audiences to take a free trial and download the app. But if your shows are not good shows, or if
They don't come
your
back.
catalog is not a good catalog, after the free trial finishes, they're gonna leave.
They're
Right? And
gone.
you know if a good show is a good show because they started watching it, but they didn't finish it, or
Right.
they didn't move to the second episode. I mean, now we have all of
Exactly.
that information, so we can have a real conversation about
Right.
what's the problem,
Right.
right?
Right.
So very, very interesting.
So
Okay, so
I have to say, technology is the greatest enabler, but there's still people behind that technology. So you
of
still have
course.
to know how to utilize it and apply it correctly in order to really tap into that enabling element.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a very, very good insight. Thanks for sharing that because it's true. It's not about the technology; it's about what we do with the technology and all of
Exactly.
this data that we have, right? The
Exactly.
insights that we take out of it and the actions that we take.
Exactly.
So let's do a little bit of a shift and talk about multicultural marketing. And I know we don't have that much more time. We want to try to keep these conversations under the hour, right? But let's talk
You got
about
it.
marketing to Hispanics, right?
Yes.
You're a multicultural expert, right? So
Yes.
this interview wouldn't be complete about talking about Hispanics. So I was looking at the 2020 census results, right? And there's a few things that really caught my eye. First of all, that the growth of the U.S. population over the past decade has been predominantly driven by Latino growth, right? Um, the second one was that despite its growth, the Latino community in the U.S. has often struggled to establish strong credit ratings due to a number of factors, but many of them have to be with the financial literacy, right? So not only language, but the trust for traditional banks, financial literacy, right?
Yes.
Then there was something about consumer behavior that came out of that census, right? And I know this sounds like it doesn't sound like a question, but there's a question behind it, right? So the first one was that there's like three pillars that are behind the Hispanic behavior, right? Education. Families often sacrifice as much as possible to cover the children's advanced education. So leaving no extra money for other things, right? Then you have family support. Families often support members voluntarily. So they're sending money abroad to support their members voluntarily, right? And that shows in remittances, right? We see
Right.
the volume of money sent. And then the third one is about borrowing. There is a lack of experience with credit and building credit history,
Right.
right? Because there's a lack of financial education. So understanding that we have back this background to marketing to multicultural, particular Hispanics, I'm very interested in understanding what's behind the success that Curacao has had in actually getting Hispanics to open up credit cards and to actually start building a credit history. Because you're basically going against the trend of what's been happening with
Exactly.
the with the Hispanic community. So
Well, that those are great questions again. You're full of great questions. I do have to say,
thank
I'm
you.
enjoying your conversation. So thank you for that. So, Latinos in general, as you mentioned, we from first generation Latinos, we come from countries where financial education was limited. Getting a credit card or a checking account was only for a certain group in society that was able to be more financially savvy and use it. It used to be a very cash based society. So the relationship with banks and institution was always, you know, at odds. People didn't feel comfortable with banking institutions, especially if they came to America. I used to work on the agency side for Washington Mutual at the time, which used to be a bank here in California. I don't know if they had other locations in different places, but Washington Mutual used to be like this bank that we did a lot of bilingual assets for. And I remember being at the bank, just doing my own customer observations. I like to be where my customer is to learn more about their consumer behavior firsthand. And I remember standing online and seeing this Latino first generation customer who literally would let people go through the line until the attendant or the cashier that had the little sign that says "Hablo español" would become available. Because there is also the cultural, differences. So you feel more comfortable doing business with somebody that is of your culture. There is an built-in trust by the fact that you and I come from the same place, whether it could be the same country or at least that we speak the same language. That is already a point of connection. So banks didn't really staff up a lot of multicultural or had a lot of diversity, in their in the ranks. I mean, at least on their customer service front for a long time. um, Part of really servicing properly a multicultural consumer is that you have, call centers that offer the language choice so that you can actually speak to a representative that understands you. Also, if you think, excuse me, if
Bless
you
you.
think, thank you, if you think about numbers, you count in the language that you were raised, unless you have spent enough time in America that now like your brain, like mine, starts thinking in English, even counting in English. But for, I would say, the first decade I lived in America, I was still dreaming in Spanish and counting in Spanish because that's how I learned to count. And counting is something that is very intimate to who you are, right? Like counting money, especially
Yeah.
finances. So you because of all of these elements, then you trust somebody that is speaks your language, that understands you, and that you culturally connect with. Curacao, differently from the Branks, was made by Latinos and for Latinos. Everybody at the store spoke Spanish. In fact, 90% of the associates that worked at Curacao were Spanish language first. So people will come to a store where they felt at home. Curacao actually sourced a lot of their merchandise in Latin America. So it was like a lot of the brands were familiar to them. They offered, a money transfer, which is the what we were talking about, sending money back to their countries of origin. All the services and all of the products, and you walked into the store and you would see symbols of Latin, elements everywhere. The music that we're playing in the background was in Spanish. So it was very familiar. And that really propelled them into success because
Yeah.
they serviced an invisible audience, to what other banks and other companies just didn't see. There is a saying that I love that says, you know, um, being skilled at something is being able to hit a target that nobody can. But being brilliant at something is hitting a target that no one can see. And I believe that Curacao was brilliant at it because they were hitting a target that nobody else was targeting and nobody else was seeing because these were, again, first generation Latinos, immigrants that had no visibility to the banking system. And the only real source or choice for them was Curacao in order to, one, obtain, I mean, feel comfortable in an environment that was conducive to business for them because I'm very comfortable in the store. Still today, 80% of our customers say that they feel very comfortable and that's a store for them. And then, second, from a financial standpoint, they came, really restricted with finances. So Curacao offered them an opportunity to have a bed and have a living room and a dining room set and spend $4,000 and pay in small little payments
Yeah.
over a period of time. So I think that the combination of having an environment that is culturally relevant, customer service representatives that spoke your language, and then services that were catered specifically to you, all of that in combination is what set them on for success. The question
Yeah.
is, what do you take them from here? Right? That's
Sure.
my challenge. They
Yeah.
were very successful, awesome for 40 years. Now from here on, how do we make this business relevant to the second generation who doesn't have banking issues, that speaks English because this is their country.
They're bicultural. They're
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 fully
100%
bicultural,
American, 100% Hispanics.
and they get targeted with financial offers from every other bank out there because they're not invisible, they're in the system. So how do we remain relevant to them? What do we need to do to continue to attract them so that we can survive another 40 years is the
Yeah.
question.
Fascinating challenge. I think that could be the topic for a second conversation at some
That
point.
would be great. Yeah,
That would be great because I think it would take us another hour to go through that, and we wouldn't have a solution for that. I'm sure, I'm,
exactly.
I'm, I'm sure you have plans.
I'm working
Listen,
on it every day.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Something that you mentioned about the what's behind targeting this audience is not only about the importance of being in culture, not only in language, right? At many stores, they think, okay, we're going to put our ads in Spanish, but it's not
Right,
only about the language; it's about the culture, right?
right.
Being relevant to the culture. But also, what I find very, very interesting about the challenge that you described that took them to where they are right now is the fact that not only they are offering credit to someone that no one else is giving credit to, right? I mean, there's a risk in that. But in reality, it's the opposite because this audience is so thankful
It is.
to the, to the organization that is giving them that credit, right?
Exactly.
That they become super loyal
Absolutely.
because they know that this organization, this business stood behind them,
Right.
right? Help them when nobody else would,
Exactly.
right? And then they become super loyal. And it's a very interesting, it's a very interesting phenomenon because I don't think it happens much with many businesses,
Right.
right?
Because the businesses tend to be very transactional versus relationship driven, whereas in Curacao, actually even their slogan was "Welcome to the family." Right. You're part of now a company that's going to be supporting you, and the support not only came in a matter of offering them financial freedom, but also politically. Curacao supports Latino causes, immigration, health, education, all of those verticals that you mentioned earlier in our call. All of those are supported through the Curacao Foundation, which is an organization within Curacao that is dedicated to deliver a percentage of all the sales that are made in Curacao go directly to the foundation for uh, funding of programs that are relevant for these particular communities. So, so there is a lot of there's as I said there, we need a whole other
And
hour
a
to
whole
talk
lot,
about all the things that Curacao has done for the community. But that's a very important angle too. It's not only I advertise to you in Spanish, and but also what are you doing for my community, and then what is my experience when I come to the store. Do you really have like Spanish language assets throughout that allow me to feel comfortable? Do you have Spanish language representatives? Do you staff people that look like me so I can feel comfortable with you? So all of those elements really come to play into a full 360, experience that communicates I am committed to you. And therefore, the customers in return, reward you with their business and their referrals.
yeah,
Curacao has grown over the past 40 years, not only through the customers that it brings through marketing, but one of the largest sources of growth has been referrals.
wow,
So,
wow.
and that speaks volumes because if
Of
somebody
course,
actually
of course.
refers a business, then they're putting their reputation
Is the
as the
biggest
biggest. Yeah,
compliment. Is the biggest
exactly.
compliment any business can have. Listen,
Exactly.
Ariela, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, super interesting, super full of great insights. I think the audience are gonna leave this podcast with so many thoughts in their minds and about things they should be thinking about. So, thank you so much.
Thank you for
I really
inviting me.
appreciate your time. Okay,
Really appreciate it.
bye bye.
Bye.